work is quite varied, and I think maybe that's perhaps what an FCPA or a CPA in the first place allows you to do, is have varied work. So what excites me about my work is, in fact, the various range of businesses and business challenges and non-profit, non-business challenges that I get to work on. Having a CPA background has set me up to do so, and I count myself quite lucky now to be exposed to a wide range of different organizations of size and scale and what they do and different people. My days are pretty interesting because of the great variety of things I get to do. I've recently joined the board of Ballet BC, a performing arts organization, and I don't think I could have predicted that 5, 10, 15 years ago. But the opportunity to get involved in the performing arts was presented to me and was extremely exciting, and I love the work that Ballet BC does, so it was an easy one to say yes to. Well, it turns out that all the work I've been doing in business all these years is extremely valuable to a nonprofit organization that doesn't come armed with those same skill sets. So it's exciting. You can have quite a large impact, a meaningful impact to an organization like that, even more so than in a classic business environment.
For me, it sounds like it's an overused expression, but for me, the word is impact. I feel where I get my most significant satisfaction out of my career, or the roles that I've had throughout my career, has been really around the feeling that by virtue of me being there and the work that I do and how I do it, I make positive impacts and positive change within the organizations that I work with. I would say that's probably first and foremost. Secondly, I've had the great fortune of working with amazing people throughout my career, people that have been a pleasure to work with day to day, and people that have actually allowed me to learn and grow by virtue of working with them and learning from them. This is going back a number of years, but taking Sierra Systems private, I was CFO at the time, and we were a public company traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and went through a very complicated process of taking the company private, but I felt ultimately set the company up to be more successful in terms of the new environment that we operated in. So I was happy with that. It was a complicated process dealing with various stakeholders, all of which had different visions of success. I would say on the philanthropic front, I was on the board of BC Women's Hospital Foundation for quite a few years, and I led the process of developing a new strategic plan for that organization that ultimately created quite a significant change in terms of it moving from the Hospital Foundation to BC Women's Health Foundation, which I do think was a catalyst for what I would think and hope would be a significant expansion of the impact that foundation can make to women's health.
An important change that comes to mind is with an organization I volunteer with, and that's Mulgrave School on the North Shore. And the change was actually a mindset change. So we were looking to get into outdoor education. And the way we approached it is the way we typically approach things at Mulgrave is seeing what was out there and what we could potentially purchase and build. That's been something that the school's been focused on, building out the school. And so we looked at various different properties, but we came across one in particular in Squamish, and it was owned by Easter Seals. And interestingly and appropriately, Easter Seals actually didn't want to sell. And so it took some time, but as a board and executive committee, we actually made the important mind shift of thinking through what could it look like if we partnered with Easter Seals instead of purchasing. And financially, you always feel more comfortable if it's your place and you're putting, improvements into something will be with the school for a long time. But as we got to know Easter Seals, we really understood their purpose of helping children with disabilities and their families, in particular, have summer camps at these locations. And so we developed a long-term lease partnership where we actually are investing to upgrade and reopen the facility. We use it through the school year, and then we actually give it back to Easter Seals to use over the summer. And I hope that continues to spawn other partnerships where Mulgrave students can volunteer there. And what I think is so important about that particular example is I do think that that's the way forward in business, in terms of nonprofits, is really looking to see where can there be synergies and opportunities for organizations to work together to have a double win or a triple win.
think the one that sits really nicely as a heartwarming experience was Social Crust. So I was asked by a member of the Coast Mental Health Board to join a sub-board called Social Enterprise. They eventually folded up into the main board and I ended up on that board. But they asked me to help them with this sort of, it's very small, it's more of an operating committee, but it was set up as a board. And it had one business running, and it's for people recovering from mental addiction, helping them find a way to have a new life and a career somewhere. And the first little business they set up was, gardening, landscaping. And they said, okay, we have this one and we've been running this for years, but we really need to do more. And we want to open up a little cafe. And I happen to have a restaurant background, so the timing was kind of perfect. And the location that they had available was on Pender, 2 doors down from my office. They survived through COVID. They started up a side catering business, and now they have a third business that is this pressure washing downtown. And so now they have 3 businesses, and it's really helping people. And there's been a lot of students that have gone through that program and then moved on to work in a regular restaurant. And that to me is a legacy that makes me very happy because that's really giving back. Social Crust really was a soft spot for me because I got to actually really get involved. I did the forecast from zero, and what was even better was the forecast turned out to be accurate, which is hard to do when you start a business. But I was like, oh, that worked out pretty bang on what I thought it would, which is wonderful. So that was really great, and I know that the board was very appreciative of it, and so that's like a nice impact that you can take with you, and so I feel like that was one of my best moments as a CPA.
So it's been a long journey, 30 years in public practice. If I think about the most memorable moment, one of them, consistent I'm sure with a lot of other CPAs, is actually finding out if you pass your exams or not. I found that out in 1998 in the UK when I passed my UK designation, and it wasn't the same experience as it is today. I actually had to go to a train station and physically look for my name in the Times newspaper. So that is a memorable moment, and I think that's a memorable moment for all CPAs. Over and above that, I would say the international experiences that I've had because of my CPA designation have been really memorable. Shortly after qualification in the UK, I transferred to the Harare office in Zimbabwe for 6 months, and I got to work with clients in the hospitality sector there. And then in 2002, I had the opportunity to work in our Washington, D.C. office with a team of global PwC professionals, and that was in response to the rollout of Sarbanes-Oxley. And then my last secondment turned into a permanent transfer. So in 1999, I moved to Vancouver, which was supposed to be for a 30-month period. But it has ended up being close to 25 years. But when I think back about individual experiences, a lot of them have come through those international transfers.
So I'm a former auditor, and I was trained to find errors and omissions and get them addressed and fixed. And I really did originally bring that practice into my leadership style. And then one day, I learned a very important lesson from one of my old bosses, Jim Lightbody, when he was the president and CEO of BCLC. And his background was in sports and leading teams and coaching. And what he taught me was, rather than focusing on what people weren't doing well, if you focus on what people are really good at, and you really kind of play that up and cheer them on, and get them doing more of that, you'll actually get a whole lot more out of people in general. And not only that, but that practice has enabled me to establish really meaningful relationships with my teams. And what I've seen is an incredible pickup in engagement scores and commitment from the teams. And also just, which has a knock-on effect, which is really improved productivity and engagement and efficiency as well. But I can share a recent memorable moment with somebody I worked with recently who asked me to be her mentor. I was really honored because she was already an incredibly accomplished finance professional. She had her CFA designation and a really accomplished career in terms of deep experience in international treasury and investor relations. And she told me that I had inspired her to pursue her CPA designation. And I was super honored by that. And so she signed up for the program, and she has since successfully completed the program. And I could not be more proud to bring someone like her into the profession.